I'm a co-founder and product director at a company called Skyward, and I've been riding the drone hype train for the last 4 years. In fact, when we started Skyward, flying drones commercially for money was illegal. So as we've built our operations and fleet management platform over the last 4 years, we've seen the hype around drones grow considerably. Also, you see that Verizon under Skyward there. More on that in a little bit. So to get you guys level set a little bit on drones and for the rest of this chat, let's look at what drones are. Essentially, you take the hobby of radio-controlled aircraft, combine them with miniaturized and cheap computing, thanks to the cell phone revolution, or the smartphone revolution, and you get drones. Drones can be used in a lot of applications, military, commercial, think bridge inspections. So hobbyist, I'm a hobbyist drone photographer myself. Beautiful imagery that hobbyists can take from the air. But there are some bad actors out there. Don't be like this guy. He flies in places that are dangerous and where there are a lot of manned aircraft, so be careful. But with drones comes the promise of autonomous flight, and with autonomous flight comes the future of transportation, where we're no longer bound to the surface of the earth, but we're able to soar up into the skies. Think about the Jetsons, Back to the Future, Blade Runner, Fifth Element. Now stop right there. I tried to sell you on the future of the Jetsons right there, but if you're trying to fly drones in your business today, the grand vision of tomorrow doesn't help you right now. So if I'm a business that's trying to help you out, how can I expect to be around for that grand vision of tomorrow if I can't provide you value today? Now, a lot of you might be familiar with the emerging technology hype curve. Essentially, there's an innovation trigger, hype builds and builds and builds until we get to the peak of inflated expectations where the bubble bursts when we realize the technology can't actually do all of the things. Then there's a big drop-off before we actually get to a point of productivity. But it's what you do as the company using the technology going up that hype curve that determines whether or not when you get to the top, it looks more like a roller coaster where you take a fun ride down and get back up safely on the other side, or if it looks like a cliff. For these companies here, it looked more like a cliff. Now, I'm not here to make any enemies, so I've actually stripped the names off of these companies, but these are real-life companies. You can see from Company A, they raised a boatload of cash, put drones on the market, but supply chain issues and competition from overseas ultimately led to a failure, and they've now pivoted to software. Company B made lots of promises, $34 million in pre-orders, never shipped a drone. And then Company C knew that they needed to get a new product out there to keep up with their quarterly earnings. And what's more exciting to investors than hopping onto the hype train? Well, definitely not major product recalls when your drone falls out of the sky. So what can you do to make sure that that peak coming down is more of a ride down the roller coaster than a cliff? Well, figure out a way to provide value today. You can sell the grand vision of tomorrow to investors, but any grand vision requires a market of hardware, software, and service providers combined with economic forces providing value to customers sustainably over time. So if you want to be around for that grand vision to come to fruition, then you have to figure out a way to be a part of the action today by providing value to customers. Now I can hear a lot of you saying, Eric, I'm just going to raise a bunch of money from VCs, take my product into stealth mode for 3 years, debut it onto the market to grand applause and profuse thank yous for providing them with exactly what they need. There are two problems with that. One, how do you know it's exactly what they need if you aren't out there putting a product in the customer's hands and iterating with them? And then second, lots of companies have raised lots of money. See Company A from the previous slide. Money alone doesn't get it done. So when you do raise money, make sure that you're not raising more than you need. Money has a tendency to cover up a lot of issues within a company. If, on the other hand, you're forced to focus on what you spend money on, then you rally the team around the priorities that actually are taking the product, building it, and then bringing it to market. Also, having a lot of money tempts you into distractions. It allows you to be distracted, which is an expensive gamble. Also, when you raise money, make sure that you don't raise more than you need, because the more you raise, the higher the definition of success is from your VCs. And when you do raise money, make sure you use money to build stuff. Flashy marketing and creative office space is a lot of fun when you're building a brand for a startup, but you exist to build a product that provides value to customers. And then finally, make friends in the industry. I mentioned the grand vision requires that market of hardware, software, and service providers. Well, your company's not going to be the whole market. Make friends, partner up, collaborate, and you'll be much better off on the coming down the hype curve. And then finally, I mentioned that money alone doesn't get it done. Well, sometimes you need to partner up with folks who have the resources to operate at the scale of civilization. So Skyward, meet Verizon. See, I told you it was a good idea to make friends.